Saludos y bienvenidos a todos to the PGP Podcast, episode 72. 72. Ay, Dios mío. Hey, Josh Tovar, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, ISD, Garland, USA. Ready and to rock and roll with you guys out there. It doesn't matter where you're at. We need you to be part of this conversation, this dialogue. Remember that the PGP Podcast is part of the Fantastic Four family. Somos cuatro, four shows in one methodology, one idea of helping each other out because iron sharpens iron. Check out Coach Hurt every Saturday at 10 o'clock, all Eastern Standard Time. And after that, Doctors, Dr. Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor, ready to rock the house. And who can finish off a Saturday, Super Saturday, than El Jefe, Principal Cafele. And yours truly, and this young lady over here, I don't know where in the world she's at, but we, the PGP Podcast, we're the anchor show of the Fantastic Four Sundays at 5 p.m. Remember, during football season, we understand the reality of football in the United States, so we had to change our times. Thank you for being here. Please make sure that you like it right now. Share it. It doesn't take you to lose us. Share the show real quick. That way the algorithm will pick it up and we learn from each other. If you'd like to be a part of the show, please reach out to me or to Dr. Moreno. We're on all the platforms. Just say, hey, I'm a librarian. Hey, I'm a bus driver. Hey, I'm a superintendent. Hey, I'm an assistant. We have shows for everybody here. It doesn't matter. We have shows for everybody. There's going to be a parent show coming up around the corner. We're going to have everybody covered. Moreno, we have everybody covered out there. But you know what? I need to know where you're at. Where are you at, Moreno? I know you're not by the pool. Where are you at?
I am not by the pool. I'm actually very, very close to Longview. I didn't quite make it. I made it to Kilgore. So I'm here in Kilgore, Texas, driving to Longview. I'm actually working in Pine Tree ISD for the next 4 days. But yeah, I've been super busy, Josh. But I could not miss the show. We're going to have the best show today because guess what? We're talking curriculum and we are in September and we have so much to offer that, of course, I wasn't going to miss this show.
So true. Hey, so you know what? There's someone in Iowa right now. There's someone in South Dakota. They have no idea where you're at. Are you by Houston? Are you by Dallas? Where are you by?
So Longview is actually really close to Louisiana border, so right outside Shreveport. I'm actually having to drive to Shreveport to fly back out down to South Texas. It's the only way I can fly around here. The airports here are really tiny. I'm not near a big city. I guess the largest city would be Dallas, but it's like 3 hours away from here. So Texas is just huge. It's ginormous. You can go
Exactly.
days and not get out of the state of Texas.
Facts. Just like to give a big shout out to a couple of people right now. I'd like to give a shout out to Charlie Peck and Josh Stanford for having me on their virtual PD with top-notch presenters out there. And I appreciate you reaching out to me. They had Jimmy Casas, Andrea Bridner, Joe Sanfilippo, Chris Culver. I mean, nonstop talent. Top authors, national speakers. Yours truly was there. They'll be showing it on the rebroadcast. Thank you very much. I was just right now, an hour ago, Dr. Joe Griffin. He invited me on his podcast. Check it out. Share it, like it. I'll be posting it out there. There's this guy. His name is Sean Kane, and he invited me to be part of his national conference. I'll be presenting this coming weekend in Austin, Texas at the National Fundamental 5 Conference. And what else do we got? Oh, Region 10, our service center, reached out to me to present to future principals in a couple of weeks. So good stuff going on there. What about you, Moreno, besides your PD that you're doing for EB students?
Oh my goodness, Josh. I am getting ready very soon to go to Guatemala. I'll be doing a PD in Guatemala for a school called Hope Academy, doing workstations and small group instruction for our students there in Guatemala. And then I'm getting ready to go back to Tanzania. I'll be there for a whole month. I leave in November. So in between there, doing some more PDs and supporting students, EB students, and anybody who really wants to really strive to do something different, Josh. If you do the same thing over and over again, guess what? You're going to get the same results over and over again. So we have to start thinking out of the box and start, what do you have that? I love that. I love that. Yep. Facts. Insanity.
And so we'll be missing you. We're gonna get some co-hosts during your absence because I know you can't come on the show when you're in the middle of hippopotami or anacondas or jackals, whatever it is in that part of Africa. So we'll miss you. You'll be strongly represented. So let me start
Thank
off
you.
with our real quick into our next stage, which is the Chinchilagua moment. And I'm gonna make it real quick because this could be like a 3 hour PD, 4 hour PD. Look, guys, hey, administrator, you probably started off the school year not in the school you wanted to be in because the fact is they shuffle administrators around, whether we
Mhm.
want to or we don't want to, whether it was for good reasons or bad reasons, it doesn't matter. I've been part of both. I've been part of the shufflee and shuffler. I've been part of both, and it doesn't matter. The only thing that I could recommend to you out there, hey, administrator, assistant principal, if you get moved for schools or anything, appreciate that you have a new environment.
Mhm.
Appreciate that you have a new way of looking at life. If it's something totally different than what you were doing before, that's a great blessing from the Lord. You just received a great blessing because now you're going to have to use the tools that you used to have before and now fine tune them to what your learning community is at this time. The only thing that you can't do, and it happens, Moreno, I'm pretty sure, you and I have done this for over 30 years. We know that people get moved for not positive reasons.
Mhm.
Hey, if you got moved for non-positive reasons, don't bring that to your new home. And that's the problem. You know what, Moreno? And I'll say this. In 30 something years, 20 something years, 20 something as an administrator, 23, I think, as an administrator. I've only been grieved twice. Twice. That's it. And they were by assistant principals that were moved to my
Mm.
campus.
Mhm.
They're the ones that grieve me. Because you know what? No, you cannot bring that here. That's why you were moved. You were moved because you were bringing a not positive environment. So you can't bring that new stuff to your new area. Like we tell kids, hey, when you go from sixth grade to middle school, no one knew you. You created your own reputation. When you
Yeah.
go from eighth grade to ninth grade, no one knew you. You create your new reputation. When you
Mhm.
go from one school to another school, no one knows you. Maybe,
Mhm.
you know how people gossip, they'll talk about you. They might look into you, but still, it's your job to make sure you take those skills that you have, that talent, and bring out the positive in you so that those kids can flourish, that community can flourish, and everyone is in a new place for the new school year. Moreno, what do you think?
You know what, Josh? It is called a fresh start. When you can start over all over again in a new environment. And you know what? Just like you, Josh, I was grieved twice as well. And mine were for teachers. Teachers were grieving me about something. One thing I learned about this, the not the grievance process. It's all about communicating. It's all about being transparent. And it's always about being honest, right? And if you can kind of take care of those three things, a lot of the other situations will settle down and be taken care of. So but yeah, I honestly believe what you just said is perfect. Start over. Don't bring that negativity with you, because no one wants you to start. You go through the whole process all over again, and then you're miserable again. So you
Exactly.
know what, start over. And you know what, it's a new environment. Just look into the positive and make it a best start.
So keep that in the back of your mind. And for future reference, today's show is a part two. Part two. You could see the very first part with episode 59, and you could go back to our YouTube channel and check out the very first group. But now let's bring in an all star panel of national educators, authors, presenters, and just lovely human beings. Welcome to the show panel, Dr. Moreno Stick.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I love having a panel that knows curriculum. I love a panel who's going to be able to share this knowledge with everybody. But you know what? I'll be honest with you guys. There's going to be I mean, Sean Kane, who doesn't know about the fundamental 5, right? But there's some people out there who don't know what you guys do, or where you guys, where'd you guys start? So I think it's super important for us to start off with the question that everybody wants to know: who are you? So Sean, we're going to start off with you since you're right, to my right here. So, Sean, go ahead and give the audience a brief background on the different roles you served in education and which one is your favorite. And tell me a little bit about, your company or why you are a expert in curriculum.
Okay, so let's see the long version of a short story. That's what you
The
want?
long version of a short story. Yes, yes, yes.
So I'm a, for whatever reason, my special gift is I'm a geek. I see systems and processes. Just you know, by the way, that when you ask that question, what series like the best, you're gonna know my answer. So I see systems and processes, and I have a real affinity for tough kids. I grew up in a tough environment. I sort of get it. I'm where I am because of coaches and a couple of principals who wouldn't give up on me. And so worked inner city Houston. Um, Figured out, okay, so if you can, and I was always the idea that these teachers, you get really excited because they save one kid and the other 99 did nothing. So I was
Mm.
always trying to figure out how can I get the 99 moving forward and try to minimize the losses. So that's everything we do. I was a really young assistant principal when I was 25, principal when I was 27, and then got this reputation of just understanding processes and was in the right place at the right time and served for Commissioner Shirley Neely as the plumber for the state of Texas. When things went sideways, I was the guy who had to figure it out. And so in that process, have visited hundreds of thousands of classrooms and figured out some ways that not how I taught. I always tell people if you taught the way I taught, you should be fired. We knew nothing then. But watching really good teachers, what really good teachers do, and how do you replicate that? And so that's what we do now is we help teachers use practices that amplify their effort to maximize student performance. And then we work with school systems and principals of how do you give teachers the right tools at the right time so they're more successful. And that's what we do. It still drives what I do. It makes me excited. I was just in Alabama this past week, and they're making phenomenal progress in just a short amount of time. Because, and I'll let the other people go, there is zero issue with teacher and educator effort in schools. Everybody's working hard. The
Mhm.
issue is with that hard work is we getting any forward progress that we can hang our hat on, and that's what we do. We help people work slightly different so they get a bang for their buck. And I'm done.
I love it, Sean. I think it's going to be amazing some of the knowledge that you're going to drop today because you have been not only in Texas and in Alabama, like you just mentioned, but you've been all over the country. And so you can definitely speak to those issues that we all face in our day to day world in education. So looking forward to talking to you some more, sir. Miss Ashley, how about you, my friend? You are in Florida. Can you tell everybody who do you work for and what do you do and some of your different roles that you've been in?
Yeah, my name is Ashley Hubner. I'm with the Reimagine Classroom. I am the director of curriculum with the Reimagine Classroom. I started my journey as an elementary educator, very infatuated with writing curriculum, figuring out how to make it fit within the day for your students, and really just organizing that. Started as a math curriculum writer as I was a lead teacher and then became a math interventionist. Then switched school districts. That was in Duncanville ISD, so I was also in the Texas area. And then I moved to Rockwall ISD, and I was an instructional coach there for 7 years. And then I was also the social studies curriculum lead for the district. So I went from math to social studies. I don't know how that happened. But that's when I moved to Florida at the end of my Texas career 4 years ago. That's when I found the Reimagine Classroom. And I've worked with clients nationally, school districts nationally, trying to find curriculum that fits for them and their students. And we really pride ourselves on that we are for teachers by teachers. We have 120 teachers on our staff that help us develop curriculum for our clients. And so we are very proud of what we do for school districts, state level agencies, educational partners, you name it, we have done it.
Awesome, Ashley. And I hope everybody out there who has maybe questions, especially since you were talking about math, it's always that subject that people are always looking for solutions to support our students in math. So hopefully we'll get some questions specifically to address their needs so that maybe you can answer them in the future or while we're online. And last but not least, Eric, talk to us about Maverick Education, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me back. It's always great to be back on this show. I'm Eric Francis. I've been an educator, proud to say. I'm going to be going on 30 years now. I think next year is my 31st year. Funny to think about. I've been a classroom teacher at the middle and high school level. I've been a site administrator. I worked for a state education agency out here in Arizona. 2012, I decided to make the leap and start my own lack of a better word, consulting firm, call it Maverick Education. It's spelled Maverik with my name and my daughter's names. Started out providing consultation in Title I, how schools can set up and organize their Title I programs and ensure they were in compliance. But I always wanted to be an instructional leader. I didn't really feel that when I was working as a site administrator. I felt like I was everything but, cop without a badge, accountant, family counselor, politician. And then I started to provide professional development, wrote 2 books on questioning and inquiry, which is kind of funny because I used to be known as the questioning guy, but now it's more like I'm known as that DOK dude because I was the one who basically refuted the DOK wheel. I proved why I was inaccurate. And what I did was I turned it into a method of model for teaching and learning. And then what I'm really focusing on now with it is how can you use depth of knowledge to make learning visible? Living in a time where kids are engaged, but how do we know that they're educated? And I see a lot of kids are going bip, bop, boop and sliding left and swiping right. But how do we know that we took it with them? So I've been doing a lot of with taking John Hattie's Visible Learning and also Richard Feynman, who talks about the true measure of learning is not demonstration, it's discussion, it's communication. So what if we could use depth of knowledge to establish 4 ways, just 4 ways kids can demonstrate and discuss their learning? It's not simple, but it can make it easier. So that's kind of been my focus, and also focusing on how can we simplify our standards, because the standards are changing and we need to figure out what exactly they say and demand from our kids.
Absolutely. And I know we're going to get to a lot of those questions later on in the show today about how exactly do we really support our teachers in the classroom. And so stay tuned, guys, because all 3 of these people have the knowledge to help all of us grow our kids.
Awesome. Big shout out to Constance Gerard, who will be here for episode 73 next week for our MTSS show. Also to Firas. I will not butcher your last name, my brother, but thank you for being here, Firas. And Jefe. Jefe is still vacationing for a whole month. Principal Cafele, thank you for being here. So, panel, the way we're going to structure today's show, just like the very first show, was providing the 101 type of questions. Because when I go to PD, I want to be able to take something with me and use it, implement it. That's the whole point. And you got top-notch people on this panel to make sure they drop those nuggets. So we know that there's a big exodus, Eric. There's a big exodus in education. Everyone is moving up, and sometimes they're moving up to positions that they're not really prepared for that leadership role. And so we know that right now, depends on what part of the country, East Coast were the last ones, but you got less than 6 weeks of school so far, already completed in the books, all right? So there's some people that got hired that maybe they never had that tag. They were the buzz guy, the discipline guy, and now they got to evaluate geometry and trigonometry and chemistry. And so they're leading a campus that might be a C campus, maybe an A campus. You know what? All those things have their challenges. Yeah. So I'd like to ask you, Eric, and then I'll go after that to you, Ashley. What are 2 or 3 steps that a brand new administrator, okay, obviously, they're brand new, because APs are in charge of departments, grade levels, and principals are in charge of the big picture. So what are 2 or 3 steps? And you could take this either way, either through addressing it to an AP or a principal, that they can determine the campus needs for PD. So they're there.
Mhm.
If you're an A, you need specific PD to maintain the A. If
Mhm.
you're a D, you need specific to raise up the campus. So I know that this is like a big question with so many worms on there, but let's just try to keep it basic to the brand new first year principal, assistant principal. Eric, how can that individual determine the type of PD that they need for that school?
Wow, that's a really, really broad question. And I think that's the really hard part with it because, the struggle with PD and what I see a lot with it is that people want, you know, gourmet dinner served at with a fast food mentality. And this is not putting band-aids on amputations. PD is not actually a one and done. It should be a professional learning. It should be continuous. It should be looking at what exactly is going on in your school and what do your students need? What do your students need? I see a lot of PD going on right now. A lot of it is teacher based. And I'm going to be bold to say it is that I understand the motivation piece and I get it, but professional learning is about honing your craft, honing your skills. And a 1 hour one and done or a 2 hour one and done is not quality professional development. We need to hone our craft. And basically, we need to be learners as teachers to really understand how I can be better. As I've been doing professional development for 14 years now, just as privately, and who I was 14 years ago is not who I was today. So when a principal looks at it, look at it from the standpoint, what do the students need? We need to look at it from the lens of the learner, not from the view of the teacher. What do the students need? Start with them. Then start looking at the teachers collectively and individually about what they need to succeed. We differentiate instruction, but why don't we differentiate professional development? When you have everybody sitting in a seminar and I'm teaching about depth of knowledge and you have not prepped your teachers who are not assessed on a standardized assessment or do not have, it's not standards driven, that they have to do this thing with depth of knowledge, it's not going to be effective. So you need to look at it. You need to be very strategic with it. You need to be really focused on it. I would even say make it small. If you're looking at a C or D school, more often than not, your C and D is because of performance on the assessed courses. It's on math, it's on English language arts, it's on science. That's where you made to target your PD. And how can you use the other courses to support the skills that are in there? You can do literacy in science, in social studies. You can do math in art and music, and literacy in art and music, and PE. So you really need to target what is it that the students need and what is it you can do with your teachers to provide that. And I'm sorry to say this, but I understand motivation, but there's a difference between climate and culture. And people can feel good and feel happy, but if your culture doesn't believe that your students can succeed and your culture is not a learner-based culture where we ask what exactly must the students learn, how deeply must they learn it, what's the essential skill they must develop and knowledge, where are they in their learning, it's not about us. When it comes to professional development, it needs to start with the students.
Thank you, Eric. Very true. I 100% agree. Ashley, thoughts?
I agree with everything you just said. I'm like, yeah. I think that there are things that we have to listen to and be aware of. Data speaks, numbers speak. Behind every number, though, there is a story. And I feel like behind that story, you have to listen to your teacher's pain points, what their struggles are with their students, why they feel like they aren't getting to where they need to be. And then you have to listen to your students as well. What are your students struggling with? What are their hardships? Where do they not feel successful? And I think all of those things really help you understand what may be going on within the school and where those pain points are. And then you have to balance the quantity versus quality. I totally agree with you, Eric. Like, you can't, it's not a one and done, and you can't do all the things. So you have to really hone in on those 1 to 3 critical areas. How are you going to set up a plan for that? Really focus in on that for that year. That is your goal. And I agree with what Eric said too. It's like, it's not one and done. You keep on going. Every opportunity that you're in front of your teachers, you can use to embed professional development. As a coach, I always used every staff meeting, every PD opportunity I got, when they had the half day planning with your teachers, we had our PLCs, we had the professional development days. I was always integrating those little mini moments I could take anywhere and anything to support the PD of those 3 goals, or 1 to 3 goals that we had for that year. It very much was a craft, and it was keeping that on their forefront of their mind too. It wasn't, they can't forget it. Like, we're going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to practice. We're going to continue to reflect on that. I think that coaching piece is very, very important. I've always felt sorry for school districts that didn't have the affordability to have coaches, because I think they are very integral in supporting students and supporting teachers and making sure that we are making growth towards those goals. So I think that coaching piece is so important at the school district and in those campuses. And I totally agree with Eric's thoughts also about the differentiation piece. As a coach, I always found it very important to get to know my teachers like teachers get to know their students. I wanted to understand their learning style, their communication style, and how could I come in and coach them and meet them where they're at in a way that they can access the material that I'm presenting to them, and that they can use it, process it, and learn and grow from it. So I think that's kind of what I would say is listen to the data and the teachers and the students, pick 1 to 3 critical goals, and then integrate it and make it ongoing throughout the year, and bring in those reflection pieces and looking at your growth.
Thank you, Ashley. Very true. And I like what Constance said right here. That's another big problem, because they don't know how to roll it, how to role model the expectation.
Yeah.
You can't be the instructional leader and you don't provide PD for your team members. It's crucial. Sean, thoughts?
I'm going to slightly disagree with my esteemed guest or panelist and slightly agree with them. So first thing, I talk to every principal I work with, whether they're rookies, and especially they're rookies, or veterans. And the question is this: how confident are you that what is being taught today in your classroom is what's supposed to be taught today? And if you can't answer that with any kind of degree of confidence, it doesn't matter how well your teachers teach. I work with lots of, I always tell people, I can train anybody to be a good teacher, but if they're teaching the wrong thing, it doesn't matter. So that's why you got to provide your teachers with the curriculum they're supposed to use. Don't leave that up to chance. So I'm going to have my math curriculum for algebra. I'm going to have my social studies curriculum. We're going to have that. We're going to build our pacing guides. And then we want to make sure our processes are in place, that we make adequate progress every day, because it's not even about accountability. If I don't cover the content I'm supposed to teach today, my kids aren't prepared for whatever comes next, whether it's end of course mastery or the next course they're going to go into. So I got to get a handle on that. And that starts with, from my curriculum standpoint, giving my teachers not only a solid scope and sequence, but a solid pacing map. We'll do some assessment piece to see if we're doing progress. But if we're not teaching the right stuff, we're just working. So then, so we get this. So are we teaching the right stuff? You got to become very aware of in-classroom time management. This is what fools everybody. You walk by the class and work is going on, and one of two things is happening. It's either work that should have been done 3 weeks ago. So I always tell teachers at that point, you're working full speed and falling further behind every day, which is one reason why you feel so stressed. Or, especially when you look at secondary schools, as we get to January, for every 1 day of new content teaching, we're doing 3 days of review for the assessments. So really staying focused on, are we moving forward? Then at that point, me and my colleagues are on the same page. I got to visit lots of classrooms and figure out where, as a staff, and I will get to individual coaching later on, but when we first start out, we got to get the staff moving in the right direction. So I'm going to visit classrooms, and if Josh is not doing something that I'm looking for regularly, that's a personnel issue. I can coach Josh up or coach Josh out. And then I go to the next teacher, and they're not doing it. Well, that's a coincidence. Then I go to the third teacher, and they're not doing it. That's a system issue, and we got to get some ongoing training to fill in that hole. And so that's where you look at, well, what gives you the biggest bang for the buck? That's where the fundamental 5 comes in. Are we having our kids engaged in academic conversations a lot? Are we having kids engaged in critical writing a lot? Both of those tie into DOK and get better thinking. But also, as you have kids doing that, they're backfilling deficit and filling understanding again. Are we recognizing and reinforcing kids to improve that classroom climate and culture? And I want everyone to write this down, an actual working definition of climate and culture. Are you ready? Culture is the practices and procedures of the adults in the building. We drive the culture. Climate is the positive or negative effect those practices have on kids. And so you constantly, as an administrator, you got to look, if we're doing things as adults that are bad for kids, I don't care how easy it makes the job for adults or how much adults like it, you must quit. And the things that work well for kids, you do more of that. So the last thing I'm going to say, we do the embedded training, you all have to. And I like the idea you focus on about 3 things, maybe 3 to 5 things, and you just keep working on it. We're going to train, we're going to work on implementation, we're going to train, we're going to work on implementation, because you do not change teacher behavior, which is really teacher practice, from one training and moving on. You got to coach people up. And the last thing before I quit, I tell everybody, with the teachers we have today, we are asking them to use better, more engaging practices at higher frequency and higher quality than we ever did when we were in the classroom, working with a kid who is tougher than we ever worked with. So if I'm not spending all my time standing in your blind spot helping you make better, help to get you better, then I'm a wasted resource. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. And that was that covered almost all the outfield right there. Thank you very much, Moreno.
Well, my co-guest set me up.
Sean, I didn't hear how you disagreed with any of us. I think you hit it on the spot.
Well, we forgot to say teach the right thing at the right time. So that's right. That's my first step.
Yeah.
Then I'll worry about the rest of it.
Actually, I don't know about you. He didn't disagree with either of us. I'm just sitting there going, yeah, right on. What'd you disagree
So maybe
with?
you missed the one thing I wanted to say, and all the rest I agreed with.
Okay.
Nice way to segment. So Ashley, we're going to start off with you on this one. Guys, you know that we have a large exodus going on in education, but we're also seeing that we have a large influx of alternative certification teachers that are coming in. They didn't go through the whole education route or anything like that. They got their bachelor's in maybe science, or maybe they got their bachelor's in sociology, and here they are, teachers now. They're going through the alternative certification. So Ashley, I'm going to start off with you. My question to you is, what specific steps do you think we should work specifically with our alternative certifications to make sure that they are prepared for the work that is ahead of them?
That is a great question. And you know what? I've seen kind of the gamut of alternative certifications where people have come into this field where it should have been their original passion, don't know why they didn't go into it in the first place, and they are naturally gifted and just take it up and go. And then I've seen those that really, really struggle because they just did not understand what they were getting into. Thought it was a fun opportunity to be with kids because they love kids, but they didn't understand everything else that's involved with teaching. So I'll speak to the latter. I think the first thing kind of goes back to what Sean said about curriculum, like knowing what you're teaching. My first step would be to set them up for success with whatever grade level or content area that they're going to be working in, to ensure they really have a clear understanding of the content so that they can help support their students. I also want to build that relationship with them so that they know that they have me to help support them, come in and co-teach, provide the real-time intervention with them as needed, working with them. But I think it's really important, if you have the opportunity to have a curriculum that's more systematic, more explicit, more concrete, simplistic, for them to pick up and use that as their almost like script in the beginning until they start to feel natural in the classroom and be able to, teach it without looking at the lesson plan. I want to make sure that they have the support that they need. Again, there's other things on top of that, though. There's other things outside of just teaching the content. You have parents to deal with, you have meetings to attend. So setting them up for like, here is the real world when you're here. This is what your day-to-day looks like. These are your roles and responsibilities, making sure that that is clearly outlined. Again, I wouldn't put too much on a new teacher that's alternatively certified. I would make sure, I'm not signing you up for every committee at school. I'm not going to give you every duty. I'm going to give you a little bit of a break, let you get your feet wet, let you earn your wings, and then we'll start to add those things to your plate. But I think that's how I would address it.
Bite size. I love it. I love it. And you're right. There's some teachers. I'm one, right? Alternative certification. I came through that route. And why did I not go through it? I mean, start off that way. I have no idea. I think I was just scared. But you know what? I loved it at the end, and I would probably have to say I was a pretty darn good teacher too. So becoming an administrator later on. So, but yeah, thank you so much. I think it's important for us to recognize that we need to bite size our support and help them, because so often they're the ones who want to be in every single committee and want to do every single thing. And we need to tell them to slow down and learn, right? Learn from the first couple of years, and then after a while, take on some more responsibilities. So I love it. I love it. How about you, Sean? What do you have to say for those alternative certification teachers out there? How do you
I want to
support
talk to
them?
administrators first. So your rookie teacher program or alternative certified, just assume they know nothing because they know nothing, right? So you're new on my campus. So I always say, I love rookie teachers. Where they come from, they're like Labrador puppies, full of energy, want to please you, don't know anything yet. So I'm going to take that energy and that passion. I'm going to put you on the right track. First, we're going to work with you on how to set up your room and not give you a lot of choices because you're going to pick the wrong thing. So we're going to set up your room environment and your room arrangement to position you to better engage and support your kids. I'm going to teach you how to use the curriculum resource so you're teaching the right thing at the right time, even though knowing right now you only know one way to teach it. That's the beautiful thing about a veteran teacher. They have 20 ways to teach it. You got one. And then on that one way to teach it, I'm going to make sure I'm going to teach you the best way to teach it the first time. We're going to do lots of hands-on. We're going to do lots of academic conversations. We're going to do lots of writing. And while we're doing that, we're going to be in and amongst our kids, small group, large group, mid-sized group. And we're going to recognize and reinforce the heck out of those kids. And so if I got your room set up right, I got your arrangement set up right, I got you engaged enough, we're going to be okay. And then I'm going to visit those teachers a lot. We work with administrators on, we call them opportunity coaching. I'm not going to talk to you every time I go in the room, but I'm going to be in your room a lot. And if things are going well, I'll give you a thumbs up. And if there's something you can do that you could do a little bit better, I'll say, hey, what if you tried this? And when you miss something, no problem, do it this way instead. So I'm going to take that role of that sideline coach. And when you see something that's worth talking about, have that high energy player tweak something. So, and knowing that, and this is the other thing I always tell administrators, because they go, oh, the teachers today, they're worse than we are. No, we were just as bad as the new teachers are, that rookie teacher. But when we were teaching, we had time to get better. Now there's no time. There are people looking at us on day one. So I always say, by year 3, I was a decent teacher and I had this learning curve where no one paid attention to me. Now by month 3, that ACP teacher or that rookie teacher has to be getting some production from those kids. So, which means we have to coach better.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right, because time is of the essence. Like, we have to do better so fast. And I loved everything you said, because I think you are right about all of that. Eric, I know you have something to say, sir, because you always have some bright ideas.
So let's get fully transparent. What if I told you I actually was alternative cert when I started my profession? I didn't go to school to become a teacher. I worked in the film industry. I left and I'm like, what am I going to do now? You know what? I love kids. I love working with kids. I loved being in front on the stage. I love sharing knowledge. I had such a love for teaching that I probably was not the effective teacher that I was, because I was teaching from my heart. But the thing is this, what changed me as a teacher and made me much stronger, more strategic as a teacher, was when somebody said to me, you need to focus on that standard. You need to focus on the standard. The standard is what the kids need to achieve. And that's how I've even developed all my teaching, is that start with the standard. You don't have to like it, you don't have to agree with it, but that's our finish line. That's our end goal. And in this world where now learning loss has been now made more concrete, not just because of the pandemic, it's now we realize it's a real thing. We've known about it. We called it the summer slide. But now learning loss is such a thing. What does it mean to demonstrate proficiency in the subject and perform successfully in a grade level? That's standard. The standard also protected me and allowed me to do the creativity that I want to do. The wild things I did when I had kids go and I had them go analyze how the Scarlet Letter addresses the theme of guilt stereotypically, socially, religiously, and psychologically through the 4 main characters. I had a standard that allowed me to do that. When I taught history and a kid would ask me, hey, Mr. Francis, did you know that Hitler was Times Man of the Year? Well, why'd that happen? How come we're not talking about it? It's not in the curriculum, guys. It's also really not addressed in the content standard, but I do have a research and argument standard that I can tie that to. See, a lot of times when we go in and these new teachers go in, they have heart. They're going in it because they love the profession. They love working with kids. But teaching is not just a heart of art. It's a head of science, art and science of teaching and learning. We need to help them understand how they can take that creativity and think critically about how they can hone that. When I basically work with schools and they say, oh, I have all these new teachers, they just came off the street or they came from, corporate America here. I say, are you teaching them the standard? Well, we're handing them over the curriculum. No, you can't just hand over a book to somebody and say, pasta lasagna, don't get any on you. Make sure you're on this page on this day. Okay. The standard is what defines proficiency and what it means to perform successfully. You got to teach them how to use it, how to teach to it, through it, and beyond it. Your curriculum is embedded in the standard, and they need to understand that. It's not your textbook. That's your curricular resource. I have an Eddie Van Halen Wolfgang guitar right next to me here. That doesn't mean I'm going to start playing Van Halen's greatest hits just because I got that guitar. Same way if I just bought the thing from Pearson or Hart and Mifflin Harpsichord or whatever, that's not going to get me to achieve the standard, because more often than not, what's in that curricular resource is not even addressing the standard fully. You need to look at the standard. If you want your new teachers to really understand what teaching is about learning. How can the kids learn? How could where are they in their learning? And that standard defines what do they need to learn? What exactly and how deeply they need to learn it? Base it on that. And use a balance of your curricular resource and your instructional tools to get the kid talent, not your tools, your talent, to get the kids to, through, and beyond the standard. We need to teach these new teachers, these rookie teachers, these teachers who are coming into the profession, that we are a standards-driven profession, and we need to really understand what those standards demand and develop our curriculum instruction based on that.
Eric, you kind of nailed it right there. You're absolutely right. I can't tell you how many times people just assume the textbook is the curriculum. I'm thinking, no. We have to make sure we look at those standards. We need to look at making sure that we are reaching those and then creating goals to reach those standards, right? To make sure that we are hitting those. So thank you so much, Eric. That really kind of defines, and I'm hoping everybody out there really understood exactly what was being said, because we need to make sure that we hit those standards. And Eric, giving them a book, let me tell you, or giving them the curriculum, I can't tell you how wrong that is. I know Texas. Hey, Josh, are you a Bluebonnet district? No. I just heard about this Bluebonnet curriculum that Texas is now adopted, and it's like, oh my God. So it's crazy, and people just assume that if you teach Bluebonnet, you're going to be fine.
No, that's like me giving you Eddie Van Halen's guitar and thinking you're going to play Van Halen tunes, just like Eddie. But the thing is, Eddie can play his songs on any guitar. That's what we need people to understand, is that, and Edwin, I see what you hear. It's not just about hitting a standard. There's a degree of alignment. That's absolutely right. And what you're going to find is that most of the worksheets that we get in our curriculum, and curricular resources, and most of the stuff we download off Teacher Pay Teachers is not fully addressing the standard. When I have a standard that says explain the function of conjunctions, interjections, and prepositions in general and in particular sentences, and I got a worksheet where they're just circling conjunctions and circling interjections and circling prepositions, that's not fully aligned to the standard. Notice what it says: explain the function. You got to have kids, you got to look at that standard and say what exactly and how deeply they have to do it, and you can't just depend upon it. That's like me basically judging whether you can hit a baseball on that day and on the game and based upon the pitch. So that's the thing we really need to get back to. And I'm reading actually a book about by Morgan Pitkoff that says the standards-based movement was all about using standards as measures of successful learning and proficiency. It became political mandates. We need to get back to that. Hint, hint, the next book I'm writing, by the way.
Awesome. I love the hint there. I love it.
Self-promotion. Sorry about that. I'll go back to it anyway.
You're all good. So I'm 1,000% believer in PD. It's crucial. It's crucial but it has to be the right PD for the right group and what the vision is of the chair. It's crucial. And we all know also that the best PD is found within your hallways. Leading into the alt-cert question, you have a bunch of brand new people on your campus, alternative certification. I still have 2 vacancies, a science and a Spanish one. I haven't filled them in yet. By the time they come in, if we find the right candidate, not hire to hire for fit. And so they need to make sure that they're on board, and they're going to have exemplars, actual human exemplars. So we'll start off with you, Sean. How do we create a culture of visiting each other's classrooms, again, through the lens of a brand new administrator on the campus? Because you need not only your seasoned educators on that campus, but your novices. And a lot of time your seasoned only see this. It's English and that's it. I only see English. My blinders are on. But there's great pedagogy going on in math and in history and other places. So what can a brand new administrator do, Sean, to make sure that we go into those classrooms and learn from each other?
You got to remember to turn on your mics no matter what. First step, right? So no, you got to go to the classroom. You can't be afraid of the classroom. And that's lots of times rookie administrators, we don't want to leave I was a math teacher, the only subject that matters, by the way, just for the record. In my first year as an AP, the associate principal gave me all the English teachers. He goes, you're going to go visit English teachers every day. I'm like, well, I teach math. He goes, exactly. So you got to get past the idea that you know something, because you're no longer a content specialist. You're an environment and pedagogy specialist. And you're really going to become an expert in pedagogy when you watch a lot of instruction and you watch it outside of your content area. Because when you're in your content area, you critique your content. Well, I wouldn't have done it that way, but I would have done this instead or emphasized that. But when you watch somebody out of your content, you start watching what they do. And the more I watch what you do from class to class to class at a decent volume, I'll start to pick up stuff that works and doesn't work. And what I always tell you, administrators and instructional coaches, you are the Typhoid Mary of better instruction. You're the only one who can walk into a room and find something better and then go spread it to someone else and spread it to someone else. Teachers don't do that because they're busy, teaching all these kids. And so you get the administrators visiting lots of classrooms. And so I remind people constantly, it literally, as an administrator, took me about 2,500 classroom visits to realize seeing nothing was seeing something. Which, it's just one of the things that pops, right? When Laird and I found the pattern of the Fundamental 5, that was close to 60,000 classroom observations where we realized there's a pattern here that had been invisible till now. So you got to keep looking and looking and looking until you see the stuff. And then when you see the stuff, start sharing it. The stuff that doesn't work, start helping people to not do that. And the stuff that does work, help them to do that more of. And then once you have that comfort level of visiting classrooms, start taking people with you. Start taking teachers during conference periods. So we always say, you did this, Josh, you know this. You do walkthrough Wednesdays, where during Wednesday conference periods, you go visit other classrooms so we can steal good ideas from other teachers. You got any teacher who just wants to visit classrooms, train them on your observation protocol, let them go visit. And any teacher working on a master's is automatically on your walkthrough team, because they need that raw input of what really goes on in classrooms beside their own to drive what they're learning theory wise. You know, we hear lots and lots of theory, and we think that everybody, and I will just say, if you're watching this podcast, we are preaching to the choir. You think that everybody is like you, that spends their Sunday afternoon trying to get better. But no, you are the top 5%. And because you're that top 5%, you're going to become a lead teacher and a department chair and an AP. And so what you have to realize that everybody's not like you. And like, as I had one of my mentors tell me, your job is not to make everybody the freak you are. Your job is to help other people benefit from your freakiness. And so I'm going to go out a lot more, but I'm going to start pulling people with me and let them go visit also. So, all right. I went all over the place. That's what I got to start with.
Thank you. Big shout out to Dr. Joe Griffin. Thank you for letting me be on your show earlier today. Dr. Melissa Jones-Chunu out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and out of New Jersey, Dr. Edwin Garcia. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your comments. Ashley, how do we visit those classrooms? I'm a new administrator. What do I do?
If you have not read the book Lead with Instructional Rounds by Vicki Wilson, I highly recommend it. I did instructional rounds, colleague visits when I was an instructional coach. And until I read that book, I didn't really understand how to build that culture of transparency and trust within our teams. And that book really sets you up from, like, if you've never done it before, here is the system and the protocol to get it started. So I highly recommend that. But it is about creating that trust and that transparency and open communication about education. Teachers take pride in what happens in their classroom, and they also take it very personal. Their classroom is like their house, their home. And sometimes they're hesitant to let people come in and people observe them. So we have to build that trust, that transparency, that open communication. It starts with the administrator, like Sean said, you know, looking at your master teachers, highlighting their strengths, showing them what they're doing great, asking them to share it with the rest of the world, because what happens within your four walls is not what happens in everybody else's four walls. And so once you can get the best of the best on your campus, volunteering, letting people come in and observe, then it spreads the word. And then people are like, oh, I want to go see them. I want to see what they're doing. And it starts to build that culture and that community across the school. I've even seen it set fire to other campuses. One of my favorite things was when I could send teachers from my campus to another campus and go observe over there at that school and what are they doing and what's working for kids and what can we bring back to our campus and build a community across the district. And so I would say you want to start with trust and transparency. And if you have not read that book, go read that book.
Thank you for sharing. Go ahead.
I want to hop in there. What she said about visiting other campuses. Any teacher, administrator, go visit strangers. When you visit people you know, you bring in a bias. You either like that person, so you color it more positively, or you're upset with that person, you color it more negatively. When you visit people you don't know, you focus on what you see, and it becomes a lot more clear to you. Also, another great book called Opportunity Coaching by some Sean Kane guy, but I hear it's good.
Love it.
Maverick, bring us home.
Well, I don't feel bad about self-promotion now. Anyway, you know what, Josh? This is the best way you tap in that outside professional learning provider, that PD provider. What I try to do is I learned about instructional coaching, instructional rounds. I worked with a colleague out here I've known for years named Monica Milinovich, and she taught me about collegial coaching, instructional rounds, and kind of developing my own. What I try to do is when I go into classrooms and I see something, I try to catch someone being good. Kind of like with the kids, you catch them being good. What's a great strategy you saw someone? I'll give you an example. I saw someone do something a couple of weeks ago. Their exit ticket out the door, they took the "What if I told you," where they write the kids write down on a card what they learned, and they write on the back "What if I told you." She took it to the next step and had the kids stand in a circle and say, "Okay, go in a circle. What'd you say? What'd you learn today?" And they would say, "What if I told you," and turn it around. The other thing is that the principal needs to basically look for that thing where they can say, hey, that's something everyone can do. And you also need to be flexible and open-minded by what you see. I see that as a PD provider. Share your personal, story. I'm a big thing about you put how could you in front of your standards to turn it into a stand-based question. I don't like how could I because it's not the same effect. I saw a teacher take it and she had how could I can I and she had and she goes, well, now I got to go change everything to how could you. And I said, well, what are you doing with it? She actually has the kids write the standard with how can I in the notes and basically summarize it in their own words. A whole new thing in there to say, wow, it changed my thing. And now I'm taking it and talking about it in my PD. The problem sometimes I see with collegial coaching instructional rounds is sometimes teachers, they don't see it as encouraging. And that's why you got to create that culture. They see it like, oh, there you go. There's that teacher. And there becomes a level of resentment. You got to have the people who are willing and wanting to listen and learn and even lead to make it happen. That's the thing I always get scared of when I say, oh, we have these veteran teachers. I compare that to where you say, well, I have this gifted kid in my classroom and they're doing well and awesome in the class. So now they're going to go tutor all the other kids. Well, what if that gifted kid doesn't want to be that tutor? And just because they have years of expertise doesn't mean that they can't learn new tricks. And sometimes that actually even scars us. I've been teaching for 30 years. I've been in education for 30 years. And I still have the idealism of a learner. That's also going to be the success of it. Your staff has to be wanting and willing to not only learn, but also listen. And in some cases, be willing to lead. And that's a very big thing. That's the motivation we need to look at with our teachers, not to sit there and have a rah-rah for, as a convocation and put up a slide that says, let the positive be so loud it drowns out the negatives. It's basically what you got to do is motivate your teachers to say, you know what? You have some worth here at this school and your worth is instructional. What is it that you do that's so great that you could share with others? And the other thing is that if they don't want to share it, you can say, well, you know what? I saw this with a teacher who did this and share it out. That's why we need to motivate our teachers. We need to have our teachers understand that professionally, not just personally or social emotionally, professionally, they're worth being there and have something to share to create that community and culture.
Awesome panel. Thank you for sharing. Thank you very much, Dr. Moreno.
Guys, before we go any further, oh my goodness, I love the fact that you guys are throwing out some of these amazing books and this awesome knowledge. So I want everybody to make sure, if you have not already done so, like it and share it, because we want to make sure that everybody out there, if you're seeing it, maybe someone in your inner circle may not see it unless you share it. So please like and share it, so that everybody can see and hear all of this great knowledge that's being dropped today. I'm gonna start off with Eric. I'm gonna start off with you, sir, because we're gonna continue with your, what you're talking about, because I know each and every single one of you guys have something different, probably, I'm assuming, about data rooms. Because data rooms, I've seen data rooms in different types of different schools. Some of them have 1,000 names on the wall. I don't even know. They're like 2 inch. What is it? Not even 2 inches. It's like a size 6 font or something. It's kind of tiny. And then you have others that are very different. So, Eric, can you tell me a little bit about your experience with data rooms, and how do administrators collaborate with their teams to make sure that we're going beyond the 4 basic questions that we want all our POCs to be answering? And those are, what do we want our students to learn? How do we know they're learning it? How do we respond if they don't know it? And then what do we do with those kids who actually mastered it? So beyond that, what can you provide support for our new administrators out there?
You know, here's the interesting thing I see about data and data analysis. I see people look at the results. I don't see people doing item analysis. You know, one of our guests here, and I'm sorry if I forgot his name, talked about alignment. And you got to look at that item that the kids were assessed on. Because a lot of times that item does not address and assess the standard it's evaluating to the level demanded. We need to do item analysis. We need to look at and say, okay, if 70% of the kids got this wrong and 60% answered with the same wrong answer, why did that happen? We need to look at the story behind the data. I see all these cards and everything. I think actually kind of that's detrimental, because when a kid comes in and they see the cards and they see they're a red, or they see they're a yellow, or they see they're a green, I think that really deflates it. I think we need to do a deeper item analysis. We can't just be item dependent to say that basically, if you heard that woo, sorry, they're watching the Cardinals next door. But I think we need to do more deeper item analysis. I think you need to look at what was the item. I can't just say that 40% of the kids are proficient on this item, on this standard, if I don't know what exactly the item said. And a lot of times it's a horrible item, especially the math items. The math items are horrible. The ELA ones, well, maybe the kid didn't really relate to the text. That doesn't mean they can't determine the theme of the story from detail to text. They just couldn't relate to the text. So we need to do more item analyses. We can't just look and say, okay, here's their numbers. Here's what we're dealing with. What did that item analyze? And then bring it to the classroom. Do an error analysis. Hey, guys, 70% of you did not hit this. 60% gave the wrong answer. The correct answer was C. Why did 60% of you answer B? Now you're teaching and learning at a DOK3, and you're having the kids do an error analysis. And then you can have the kids, okay, write a letter to your friend. What do you need to watch out for when you look for these items? That's how I used to get my kids, not just even prepare for the test, but to really understand forward and backward what kind of items they can do. Stop looking at the numbers, because what's the story behind the numbers? Because a lot of times the kids have been so over-assessed, they're actually throwing the test. They don't care. I remember a kid when we had the reading program, where like they read a book and they would go and ask a bunch of questions on the book, and they bombed it just because they didn't care. And I'm like, great, now you're reading at a first grade level because you didn't care, and the kid was in 8th grade. What is the story behind those results? We can't just keep on looking at numbers. We got schools, especially here in Arizona, that got A's with 40% proficiency in literacy and math. Well, they got the A because of growth. Great. What did they grow from? You still got 60% that are not proficient, and you got people who are counting on thinking, oh, our school's an A. Well, why? You know, why is your school an A? You still got 60% not proficient. And guess what? They're probably not at grade level when they come in the next year, because they had 5 months off from learning between the assessment and the first day of school. We need to look at the story behind the results.
I love that, Eric. I love it. And you're absolutely right. The green and the yellow and the red, it's frightening walking in. And I think it's something that really doesn't tell the story. All we see is a whole bunch of different colors on the wall, and it's not really giving you a good picture of
Accelerated
what's going
reader.
on.
Thanks, Constance.
So-
That's what it was. AR, where the kids would go pick a book and ask
AR.
a bunch of questions. All my kids used to throw it, you know, and actually, you know, I know people actually are throwing the test now because they don't like the teacher and they figured it out. Because they're going to the next grade level.
Yeah.
The worst thing they'll do is they get tier 2 or tier 3
Yeah.
intervention, and they know it. But that teacher, they're going to go and get that instructional coach. I mean, that's actually some of the twisted thing that's happening. We need to find the why behind
crazy.
the tests.
Yep. Sean, what do you have to say about these data walls and these data rooms?
Garbage and a waste of time. Here's the reason why.
What I wanted to
So-
say.
Huh? What?
Tell me.
You said
Tell me why,
exactly
Sean.
the way
Tell
I wish I was more like blunt. And I agree with you 100%.
They're garbage and a waste of time. But here's the reason why. The data is invalid. So I'm an OG data guy. Remember I told you I see patterns and matrices and all that kind of stuff? All right, so here's the deal. Everybody, when they do their data, they review for the assessments. As soon as you review for the assessment, don't worry about your data analysis. Your data is now invalid. Because when you review for the assessment, what you mask is content pacing, you mask the quality of first-time instruction, and you mask long-term retention. All you're assessing is short-term retention, which you reviewed on yesterday. And so you make adjustments and accommodations based on invalid data. So what do you have to do? I have to quit reviewing. I teach, assess, and see what. Now, by the way, when I don't review, my grades are ugly, but my data is valid. When I review, my grades are pretty, but my data is garbage. So, and I want smart people having valid data so they make smart decisions based on what the data tells them. And so there's now, before you jump into that, there's processes and safety nets you have to build to protect kids and staff and campuses, but you want to get to where you have valid data, where you're making good decisions. So short version of a long story of hours and hours of training. You review for 1 day for the midterm. That's it. You review 2 days for the final. That's it. And before your state test, you can do a week, usually really about 2 weeks of review for that. The rest of it, we are teaching and then do quick assessments, not long assessments, quick assessments of what we're supposed to teach to see what's really happening. And then we start to make adjustments. And then, again, I'm not worried about individuals. I'm going to stabilize the mass. So I'm going to take this assessment now with valid data. And when I do this, by the way, now the test sheet looks like a murder crime scene with all the red. I'm not worried about all of it. I'm looking for my 2 deepest holes, the 2 concepts my kids did the worst on this latest assessment. And that's what I'm going to backfill and reteach as I continue to teach forward, because those deepest holes cause fissures in understanding and all the other content. And as I backfill deepest holes and teach new content at the appropriate pace better, the lesser issues begin to solve themselves. So I'll put it in star terms for you Texas people. I'm going to lose the short-term assessment game and win the star game, because I'm going to keep making incremental adjustments all year long. So my kids are going to be better off when we're actually at the end of the year. Everybody else is trying to win the assessment game, not making any kind of real accommodations, and they get kneecapped by the star. And they go, oh, it must be a bad state test. No, you have bad processes. Mm-hmm. But it takes courage and a little bit of pain to get pure processes. All right, that's my spiel. By the way, John
I love
is
it,
nodding
John.
because he's lived through this before. He knows, and he knows it hurts, but you'll get through it.
Yep. Ashley, what about you? Can you tell me about your experiences around data rooms, data assessments, and what do you think about this?
So one, I would never put student data up on a wall. I never want a parent, a child, another teacher to walk in and see some student's data up on the wall and what that represents or shows about that student. I think it's essential to set up a PLC room or a team room where you can have open and honest conversations about data. We have to review it. We have to look at it. We have to see what the stories are behind the numbers. We have to use it to set goals. We have to measure success and progress. I think there's various ways to look at that data. We can analyze it at the student level, like what does the student need? Where are they being successful? Where are they not being successful? We can look at it at the teacher level. Where is this teacher being successful? Where are they not being successful? And where do they need to grow? We can look at it at the curriculum level. Okay, we've created these common assessments. We've created these progress monitoring checks. Are they servicing our students? Are we making the gains that we're looking for? Is it a curriculum problem? Or even looking at it from a systems approach. Is it a campus problem? Are we doing this all wrong? Have we looked at this the wrong way? How are we helping and supporting our students? So I think it's very essential to have a location and a place where those conversations can happen, that they're authentic conversations. People know that we can discuss this and be open and honest and transparent, because we are ultimately just trying to do what's right for our kids. I always built my data analysis in a digital platform. So teachers had access to their data and could manipulate it and look at it and update it live time as we are looking at things, but I would never put anything on any walls.
Can I
Love it.
Can I-
Love it. Love it. Love it. And you can see.
can I add
Go
something?
ahead.
Yeah,
Go
'cause we
ahead,
talked
Sean.
about PLC,
Or Eric,
okay?
sorry.
We talked about the 4 questions. We really need to be
Mhm.
intentional, and we really need to be specific and measurable. And that's actually, and not to toot the whole horn I did with DOK, that's why what I did with the PLC, the 4 critical questions, I tried to make it as strategic and simple enough for teachers. Because when you say, what exactly do the students need to learn? That's the DOK level, the
Mhm.
essential standard. You need to identify what the essential standards you're addressing and assessing, and you need to look at the DOK level, what exactly and how deeply, and really specify that. What does learning look like, sound like, and feel like? How do we know that they're learning it? It's not just that, okay, I'm doing this worksheet correctly. We need to unwrap and unpack that standard to say, what are the essential knowledge and skills the kids have to develop? We really need to break it down. That's how you answer question number 2. What do the students need, or how we address the students if they're not succeeding? That's where RTI and MTSS comes in. We need to tier it to where they are. We need to look at different strategies. We need to look at it with a question lens to say, do the students know this? Do the students understand this? Can they do this? Can they do it this way? Can they do it that way? The question number 4 is, where do we go once the kids have learned it? You always take it to the next DOK level. You always either enrich it or extend it or advance it. The thing is, when I see those questions, what do we want the kids to learn? It's just a blop. I want them to learn theme with the outsiders. No, I want them to determine the theme of the outsiders from details in the text and analyze the development over the course of the text. Then I got to break it down. What is the theme of determine the theme of the outsiders, understand what a theme is, and I got to break that down. What if they don't succeed? Well, now I need to break it down and look at it that way. That's what I see with a lot of data, is that we look at numbers and we're not being intentional with addressing whatever questions you're addressing. The 4 critical questions of PLC are the strongest that I've seen out there, but you really got to be specific and measurable. You can't just go, blup, I want them to learn ratios and rate reasoning. No, what are the 3 standards that are in ratio and reasoning? Which one's essential? Break that down. Look for what I need to do. I may need to tier it back to 3rd grade where they're learning about fractions. I may need to tier it back to where they're learning about division. And what can we do once they've learned it? Those become your important to understand and nice to know standards. We need standards driven.
Let me hop in there because
I knew it, Sean. I knew it. You were itching. I saw you moving like this.
Questions.
And I was about to say, Sean, tell me.
So the guy that taught Rick DeFore
Mm-hmm.
was my mentor. So there's the national model of PLCs, and then there's the I want to beat you model of PLCs. And so the original model came from a very competitive Texas principal. So here's the 4 questions that we operate under that I was basically, I learned in the cradle. Number 1, what are we supposed to teach? And this question was the origination of the PLC model was before their scope and sequences. And so when you have 6 Algebra 1 teachers, if they're not on the same page, then you can't leverage any kind of brain power. So the first thing is, what are we supposed to teach? All right, which before scope and sequences took up about 80% of the PLC time. Now they have scope and sequences, you can reduce the amount of time on that and then spend more time on the second question. How are we going to teach it? And that's where, all right, what is the most effective way to teach to this standard that we're supposed to do? And that's where I want my brain, I want my teachers talking together. I have this idea, I have that idea. And I always told my teachers, I want strong opinions in disagreements, because I want Josh to go, I'm going to teach it this way by God. And I want Eric saying, I'm going to teach it this way by God. Great. So now you've publicly stated you're going to teach it. Now teach it full speed. And then we'll take our common assessment in 3 weeks and we'll see who's having the best results. And then we can start to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Okay, so how are we going to teach it? And what are we going to teach? How are we going to teach it? Number 3, how do we know? So how do we know it worked? That's where the data and the assessment piece comes in. And then this is the really critical question. Not what are we going to do for the kids who got it? We're just going to show them the next thing. The 4th critical question is, what are we going to do different? Because now we know something. We've gone through this process. What am I supposed to teach? How am I going to teach it? How do we know we taught it? we're going to learn something. What are we going to do different? And it's that incremental, what are we going to do different, where we keep getting incrementally better. But if you don't use the data to say, what are we going to do different, then you don't ever change anything. By the way, if you don't have discussions with teachers on how to teach it, they only know one way to teach. So I need that diversity of ideas. And if we're not working off that common scope and sequence, those common standards, then we're all over the page. So it really is, how do we create, and by the way, the guy originally a football coach, how do we create this process to where our offense is more effective than the offense next door? So we go, what are we going to teach? How are we going to teach it? How do we know? What do we do different? That's our 4 questions.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow,
there's so
that's a
many
lot.
different PLC questions. I like when you look at it. I think that's great from a teacher lens. What I'm trying to even do with it from looking from the learner lens, like what does that look like, sound like, and feel like to the student? We post these objectives, we post these learning targets with I can statements, and it's like I can identify the theme. Great. Well, what does that look like through the lens of the learner? That's why I love with Hattie with visible learning and kind of top secret a little bit. He's also trying to figure out what do cognitive tasks look like, sound like, and feel like from the lens of the learner. That's actually some of the stuff I've been doing with DOK. What I see a lot with the questions is that they're not specific, they're not measurable, focus and purpose. I mean, I see so many things happening in classrooms where they're great activities, the kids were engaged, but did they take it with them?
Right.
It's not, am I teaching to the exit ticket? Did that kid learn it in a week from now, a month from now, 10 years from now, when I take them out to dinner and say, hey, remember in that class when you asked the question, is man born savage? Or are we man born civilized? Are we all born savage and made civilized by our culture? Yeah, I remember when you taught me that in 10th grade. It's what made me want to be a psychologist. You know why I asked that question? We read Lord of the Flies, and I said, that's a Tarzan question. That's the thing. Are you doing something that will have that kid who can point and say, that is the day I learned it? Because when the assessments are over, and this is scientifically based, when the kids are done with the assessment, their brain prunes. If they don't think it's important, they're going to forget it. So when we got these kids going to grade level, you expect them to remember it if they didn't find it valuable. The body resets itself. Think about when you're a marathon runner. You train for the marathon. What happens the next day? I'm even trying to explain that the reason why kids lose their learning is the same. It's physiological. It's why Ozzy Osbourne died, because Ozzy Osbourne lived for that event, that thing in Birmingham. And then when it was over, his body naturally reset and he died. And that's what's happened with our kids, called a death drop. I'm not saying they're having a death drop, but after the assessments are over, the kids go, boom, I don't need to know that anymore. April, May, someone told me the other day, it's the 90 months of May. June, July, they're not learning. August, you expect that kid to be learning and remember the level of learning they did when for 5 months they've not been learning at the 7, if they were lucky to learn it. We need to basically go, and this is why I say standards driven. What does it mean? The standard. Use your PLCs, the standard. Plan your instruction based upon the standard. And somebody said pacing guides. Can you imagine if we use pacing guides for driver's ed? Hey, they're supposed to be done with pedals by Friday, and Monday they're going behind the wheel. Oh, crap. We just took an assessment. 30% are not proficient. Doesn't matter. According to the curriculum map and pacing guide we worked on for 2 weeks before you got here, you're going behind the wheel, and I'll make sure I call in a sub that day. We need to look at it from the demand of the standards and the diverse needs of the students. That's the secret sauce, and that's what I'm sharing.
And Eric, I think that could be fun in one of your books. What would you like to tell the audience? Do you have any book to show them right now?
Okay, it's over there, but my book is called Deconstructing Depth of Knowledge, and I turned into a method of model for teaching and learning and made it an RTI. Lately, I've been basically using it as, what does learning look like, sound like, and feel like? What if I said there's only 4 ways kids can demonstrate and discuss their learning? They can answer correctly, they can explain with examples, provide evidence, or extend it. The other one is inquiring minds want to learn. So what are the questions we can ask to get the kids going with that? Those are the foreign translations up there. I have my other books over there if you want me to run over and get a copy of the cover.
Cool. Yeah, get him real quick and put it on the screen while Ashley tells us, is there anything out there that we could research from your company there, Ashley?
Actually, I do have my own book, Foundations of Instructional Coaching. This is for any brand new, early first year, second, third year coach that is drowning. Like, this is real world. What can you do? Quick, easy tips to get you going and understand how to support your campus. I know a lot of coaches are just, you're a good teacher, go coach. And nobody teaches you how to coach. This is going to give you the one-on-one real quick. It's an easy read to get you started. So wanted to share that.
Beautiful. Sean, what you got there, brother?
Well, first of all, you got to come to the Fundamental 5 National Summit in Austin this Saturday and Sunday. Bring your teachers. That's why we did it Saturday and Sunday, so you can bring your teachers and get them all fired up. Presenters from our company, Lead Your School, authors, Jane Elsperman will be there. Josh is going to be there. Tricia Singh's going to be there. So it's a great conference. You need to be there. And then the latest book, I think the book that just came out was Plan to Teach Better. And there's part of this is that we all, yeah, there we go. Josh has seen it. So it's a great insomnia cure. But the idea is that if I'm going to do things better in the classroom, I can't wing it. Because if I walk in without a plan, I put myself under undue stress, and with undue stress, I default to my base habits and behaviors. So anything better than my base is I got a plan for it. And so it's a quick one-page way to sort of set up what I'm going to do in my reteach, what am I doing in my direct teach, where are my transition questions to get that better thinking, to start processing this? How am I doing guided practice? Which, by the way, we spend a lot of time telling every elementary school teachers get this, but every lesson has to have some guided practice. There is some kid who shows up today who forgot what you did yesterday. And at secondary, we forget about guided practice. So I'm going to do a little bit of guided practice, and then what are we doing in our independent practice? In the reminding teachers that independent means independent of as much of your support. But in independent practice, I can work with a team with my partners or my team or even by myself. But in matter of fact, we want more collaboration in independent practice where kids are having to talk about and process and share and support each other. So again, we sort of break up that lesson period into about 5 discrete segments of a couple of anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. What's your focus? And then let's go run the plan.
Beautiful, beautiful.
We're in the books, by the way.
There you go. Get a little bit closer, Eric. A little bit closer.
These are how the kids answer, and this is how you get them to answer. There you go.
I love it, love it. All right, guys, we're down to last 3 quick questions. They're not that maybe one of them might be a little bit complex, but you guys are gurus, and I know that you could synthesize your answer real quick. Ashley, I'm brand new. I'm a brand new administrator on a campus. I just got my dreams answered. How do I show my learning community that I'm an instructional leader?
Oh, that is a great question. Well, I think I think building relationships is very, very important. They have to trust you first before you start trying to show off what you know. They need to trust you, need to respect you, and then they're going to listen to you. When I first came into my position, which I wrote about in my book, I threw myself to the fire. I just said, hey, I'm going to do a PD for you, and let's see how it goes. And I did something that I had presented at CAMT a while back as a math conference in Texas. It's pretty big. So I did that, and I really think it kind of lit the fire for the teachers and helped them understand like that I wasn't coming in as a nobody that didn't know anything, that I had follow through with what I said, and really started with that, building those relationships and then showing them what you know and backing it up.
Beautiful, Ashley. Thank you. Eric, I'm brand new, brother. How do I get the street cred, brother?
Start small. Find out who your dynamos are. Find out who your visionaries are. Find out who your innovators are and your early adopters. Get them to on your side. Get them to believe in you and what you can provide. Because if you just come in like a bull in a china shop, like I did when I was assistant principal, and said, I'm an instructional leader, and everybody, hey, I'm here to tell you all the great ways you can do things, I'm going to turn everyone off. Find out who the people are who are willing and wanting to listen, learn, and lead. And they're the ones who are going to basically get that trust built for you, because they go, hey, he provides some good stuff. Trust him. That's the thing. Start small. Go in. Don't try to fit your whole career into your first year. Find the people who are willing and wanting to listen, learn, and even lead.
Sean, I just got hired. How do I get street cred?
Presence and talk less. So I got to be in lots of classrooms. They got to see that I'm watching them work. And the talk less is and I not a humble brag fact. I've been in a couple 100,000 classrooms in my career. I walk into any teacher's classroom for 5 minutes. I can't tell you if what I'm seeing is an anomaly or typical or even useful. So I got to see enough to see what typical practice is. So I'm just going to watch you for a while. So if you're working, I'm happy. Once I've seen you work for a little bit, I can help you do something less or do something more. But yeah, so I think we get people walk in and try to talk too quick about something that is a nothing so far. So I'm gonna be out there. They're gonna see, and when I'm in those classrooms, I'm just gonna help. You know, someone needs a light switched on. I'm gonna switch it on. I got a kid who's not paying attention. I'll tap him on the shoulder. So I got to get a feel for what's going on. So I always just say, you know, think of yourself as the new linebacker coach. I got to watch my players, watch them run a couple drills, see what's going on, and then I'll start coaching. But I got to watch them work first.
Love it. Moreno?
Sean, let's continue with you, sir, because I know you can probably give me some, or give my audience some good advice, and that is on writing. It's one of those areas that most people struggle as far as having our students write. So what can you provide as far as a strategy or a way of doing so? How do we embed more writing across the curriculum?
Yeah, that's funny because that's one of the sessions at the Fundamental 5 Summit. So the trick to get more writing across the curriculum is not longer writing; it's more quick bursts of writing. And then I'll brag about my co-author, Colonel Laird. He says teachers got to understand there's a difference between draft writing and audience writing. Draft writing, which is really critical writing, is thinking and connecting writing. It's messy, but I'm organizing thoughts and getting them on paper. I can do that in any class, and I should be doing that in any class. And the more that we do that thinking, connecting, draft writing across the content, those kids, not only they perform better in my class, they develop that skill set. And then when they walk in that English classroom, those English teachers can take that kids with that skill set of getting their ideas on paper quickly and hone them into proficient writers. But when we're afraid of writing and don't do any writing, we're not getting any real thinking. So here's what. So I'm a math teacher. Well, all right, Mr. Kane, how are you going to do math? How do you write in math? There's a couple things I'm always going to do. When I'm doing my direct teach, we're going to do some note making. So I'm gonna share stuff for about 10 minutes. In that, there'll be 3 minutes of note making, which is getting your ideas of what did I just say that's important to you remember. And then we're going to do lots of practice math work with lots of hands-on, because that's what I do. And then I'm not going to do an exit ticket like most people do. You know, the math exit ticket is I have you do 25 practice problems, and my exit ticket is one more practice problem. No, my exit ticket, which you're going to write to in 3 minutes, just a quick couple bullet points, is what processes have you picked up by doing this practice? How does this process connect to yesterday's process? So I'm going to make them take that process thinking that they're not getting by, you know, without me pointing it out to them, and making them get that down on paper. So we're going to close with a quick write, exit ticket, a little note making. And by the way, we're going to do that every single day. And when those kids walk to English, they're used to writing.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Ashley, how about you? How do we get more writing across the content areas?
I think you have to make it personal. You have to give it meaning. Like, students have to own what they're writing. They have to feel like it's connected to them. I like how Sean, his extension for the math that he just explained is about them talking about what they learned. So you're giving them the opportunities to write authentically about what they know and understand in ways that are not necessarily graded for the writing. If students if they feel like you're going to nitpick their punctuation and their grammar and their syntax, they don't want to do it. We have to make it real, open, honest, and not formulaic.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Awesome. Eric, how about you? Close us off, sir.
Well, you got to first ask good questions that prompt them to write. that give them a reason to write and a reason to read. Writing is also not the English teacher's responsibility. It is everybody's responsibility. The future of education, I say, is communication. We've gone from an environment to where we could get answers from a calculator to get the answers given to us through Google to now it can be explained to us. Communication and writing is going to be key. The masters and mistresses of the universe are going to be the ones who can take what AI gives you and summarize and synthesize in their own words. That's the big thing. Writing needs to be in every classroom. We talk about college and career readiness. In college, they're writing. In their careers, they're writing. And if the kids struggle to write, then we need to go back to the basics. I've worked with fluent English speakers and English language learners, and we use sentence frames to start. I've used every method from the Jane Schaefer method with this means that, and this also means, and also these things. And then you need to teach the kids how they can put the voice in it. You want to get the kids to write with voice, have them start every sentence with an I statement. I think, I believe, in my opinion, all that. And what you do is then cross it out. There's your voice. We also need to believe our kids can write. Communication is key. And when everyone says these kids can't read and write, guess what? They're basically reading and writing more than ever. They're just doing it on their phone, and it's technical. and they're not just reading text, it's multisensory. You know, why is it a kid can't infer to be or not to be, but you give them a Taylor Swift song and they can tell you what it's about, what's the meaning behind it. They can give you all the reference with it. That's actually a strategy I do. I say I give teachers To Be or Not to Be and say, what is Shakespeare implying? And then I give them All Too Well by Taylor Swift. And if they know it and have the background knowledge, and I say, now take that skill you just did and apply it to Be or Not to Be. And know what they tell me? Is he contemplating taking his life? Yes, you're right, but why? We need to have the kids. And like you said, Sean, stop talking so much, talk less, smile more, and let the kids demonstrate and discuss.
Love it. Love it. It's all those Easter eggs, Eric, that Taylor Swift drops, and they pick those things up pretty quick because they can pick that up fast.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, it's funny because they also can, you know, imply and infer, because you ever hear a kid argue about whether Captain America could really lift the hammer only until Avengers Endgame, or was he always able to do it back in Age of Ultron when he made it move? You know, that's the thing. Take that skill and apply it to another things. That's that transfer.
Awesome. And we are ready for the last question, Josh, so that we can get to the Échale Ganas questions.
That's my man right there, bringing in all that comic book trivia, man. Love that, man. Real quick, guys, we're going to finish this off. A simple question and then the lightning round. Lightning round, except for question number 2. Ashley, finish this sentence. Hey, administrator, if you blank more, your scores will start to trend upwards.
Listen.
Okay. Hey, Sean Kane. Hey, administrator, if you blank more, your scores will start to trend upwards.
Spend more time in classrooms.
Eric Francis. Hey, administrator, if you blank more, your scores will start to trend upwards.
If you shift your culture from a performance-based to a learner-based culture.
Oh,
well, I thought we were supposed to give a one-word answer.
Was it one word?
Add more, Ashley. You got to add more?
No, I'm good.
No, that's for the lightning round. That was for the lightning round.
Ashley, you shouldn't have gone first.
But actually,
administrator, if you don't go first, your scores will trend upwards.
Your one word is powerful.
Yes. All right, here we go. Lightning round. Échale Ganas question. I changed them up a little because we've had the panel on before, and there's no cheating here. Remember that Ganas is a spiritual question for all Hispanics. It doesn't matter if you're in Utah or Puerto Rico, whether you're in Arizona or Peru, it is a universal word used by everybody. And so that's how I want you to answer these questions. Remember, it's a lightning round. It is a lightning round. You only can talk a lot with question number 2. So here we go. As for everybody out there in the audience, nobody knows the questions. Not even Moreno knows the questions till Sunday. But everybody knows these questions. So, Ashley, we're going to start off with you. And remember, it's a lightning round. Give advice to a first-year assistant principal.
Get to know your teachers, take time to invest in them, and build relationships.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student who wrote you a special message and inspired you.
It's still me.
Yes.
So I don't have a specific note, but there's one parent that I always remember. Is she always called me her child's first mom, and it always sat well with me. And I could tell the whole story, and it would be super sweet. But I'm not going to take all your time.
Send some flowers to an active educator who inspires you in your work.
Let's send them to one of my best friends, an amazing principal, Crystal Shackley, who is the principal of Lupe Garcia in Rockwall ISD and does an amazing job.
Name one person in the audience that they should follow on social media.
So I would say I don't know him, but I was very inspired by some of his comments. So I'm going to say Edwin Garcia. I know y'all know him, but now I want to get to know him.
Doc is amazing. Which series is best, Rocky or The Matrix?
Rocky.
Which holiday did you prefer to celebrate, St. Patrick's or Mardi Gras?
I'm going to have to say Mardi Gras. I love NOLA. I love the culture. I love the vibrance.
March Madness or college football playoffs?
College football, all the way.
What is the best HBO or Netflix series?
I'm going to go Entourage. HBO.
Entourage. All right. How can people get a hold of you, young lady? Get that book that you wrote about coaching. Let them know.
Follow me at Ashley Hubner on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can email me at ahubner@reimagineclassroom.com.
Love it. Maverick. Lightning round, Maverick. Lightning round. Give advice to an assistant principal. Brand new one.
Talk less, smile more, and observe.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student who wrote you a special message and inspired you.
I actually just got this summer because I ask for things when I do a PD. I put a poster in the back. You gave me inspiration to ask more and talk less, and also know your student's story.
Love it. Send some flowers to an active educator who inspires you in your work.
Greg Walcott in Woodridge 68 up in Woodridge, Illinois.
Name one person the audience should follow on social media.
Jennifer Oscar.
What series is best, Rocky or The Matrix?
Oh, man, come on. Rocky and Creed.
That's not a choice, sir.
What do you mean?
Creed is part of the series.
Yeah, Rocky.
No,
I
Here's
got
my
you,
question. You cannot add Creed. Here we go. Which holiday did you prefer to celebrate, St. Patrick's or Mardi Gras?
God, I'd say Mardi Gras, but really Cinco de Mayo. I'm out here in Arizona, man.
All right. March Madness or the college football playoffs?
College football.
What is the best HBO or Netflix series?
Classics, Sopranos and Entourage, recent, The Pit, and Peacemaker.
How can people get a hold of you, senor, and your books?
Well, you can go to my website, Maverick, Maverik, education.com. They're also available at Solution Tree and ASCD. My first one was there. Now, that's a good question. You can email me at eric@maverickeducation.com, or please connect with me on LinkedIn, Eric Francis, and Twitter is MaverickEDU12.
Love it. Sean Kane, this Saturday, Fundamental 5 National Conference. Here we go. Give advice to a first-year assistant principal.
Get in rooms every day.
Read a note, an email, text from a teacher or student who wrote you a special message.
It was actually this week. Just really gives you why we do this stuff. Older veteran teacher walks up after we'd been doing some ongoing PD, and he said, "Don't tell anybody, but this stuff actually works." So that's all you need sometimes, right?
Right.
Yeah. So this stuff actually works. By the way, what everyone else just talked about today, it works.
Facts. Send some flowers to an active educator who inspires you in your work.
I got to go right now with Brent Jaco and his team of administrators out in Pecos, Texas. They have, in the past 5 years, have turned Pecos into a little Garden of Eden in between Odessa and El Paso. So they're doing some great things out there, and it's exciting.
Name one person the audience should follow on social media.
Just these people on this panel right now. They're great. You should follow them. You're going to learn a lot.
What is the best series, Rocky or The Matrix?
Oh, The Matrix.
Which holiday, St. Patrick's or Mardi Gras?
Come on. Sean spelled the correct way. It's got to be St. Patrick's Day.
March Madness or the college playoffs? Football?
It's March Madness because in the middle of March you got 68 teams with hope. You gotta love that.
What is the best series on HBO or Netflix?
I pass. I went to Apple. It's got to be Ted Lasso.
All right. And how can people get a hold of you, senor?
Leadyourschool.com works. At LYS Nation. Email is s.cain, CAIN, at leadyourschool.com. Or come to the conference. I'm easy to find.
Exactly. Panel. Amazing. Amazing. If you're brand new, you have no choice but to have learned today unless you have no pulse. Thank you very much, panel, for being here. And that's what it's all about. Remember, everybody out there, whether you're in Alaska or Hawaii, whether you're in Maine or Florida or anywhere in the 48, you're broke. You're broke. You have no money. And so this is free PD. You can't go wrong with this because it's all beautiful knowledge based on actual experiences in the classroom at the national level, creating books for whatever organization it is, and it's all here for you. So please make sure that you like it and share it, and make sure that you make comments or reach out to these guests or past guests. It's crucial because we're on the same business. We're in the kid business. And as we're in the kid business, we need to make sure that our craft is the best craft because we're preparing them to be the future leaders of this beautiful melting pot of the United States. And we need you to be on board and make sure that you're the best version of yourselves. Come this Monday, making sure that you are there 100% with all the tools in your arsenal to ensure success. Join us next week for our MTSS show. MTSS show part 2, second part, and the following week our special ed show. We have a lot of tons of national consultants coming in to teach you all of this free PD, and we need you on board. Panel, say goodbye.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Panel. It was great talking to y'all.
Don't
Thanks.
hang up.